Richard, you have kindly agreed to discuss sex playlists with me because I want to talk about what people put on their sex playlists and why. A deep dive, if you will.
Yes, a deep dive. The economics of the thing as well. We're also talking about some amazing new polling about James Bond, what the public think about James Bond, who the public would like to be James Bond. We're going to take a look at that.
And we're going to talk about Ariana Grande, who said that she's sort of stepping back from public life for a bit and has been the subject of like intense scrutiny over her weight and how she looks and her health. And we're going to talk about the difficulty of all of that and whether people should talk about it at all.
I'm just reminded as well that someone told me for definite who the new Bond is the other day. But I mean, that's happened before, but I will, I'll let you know what they said.
The Rest is Entertainment is presented by Octopus Energy. Now, one talent can make a career. 3 usually gets you an official title.
Yep, and that official title is a triple threat. You call triple threat anyone who can act, sing, and dance.
Now, these days, 3 can seem almost modest. The same person might write, direct, produce, and have another career on the side.
J-Lo would be a triple threat, huge music career, started as a dancer, huge acting career as well. It's an amazing talent to be able to have.
And now drinks mogul as well.
Is she?
You have to be the mogul now. I think the mogul is always the third thing now.
So she's a quadruple threat.
Yeah, I sing, I act, and I have a lifestyle portal.
But that phrase, all singing, all dances, it escaped entertainment, and now it's used for anyone and anything that does several jobs very well all at once.
Which is a pretty fair description of Octopus. It's the UK's largest energy supplier, one of the country's biggest installers of heat pumps, solar panels and batteries, and it runs a major electric car leasing business for good measure.
I mean, that's a quadruple threat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a quadruple threat.
Right. Sex playlists. Okay.
Yes.
For some reason, I needed to listen to Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon the other day. And I was looking for it and I noticed when I was looking down, wow, this thing is on a lot of sex playlists. And then I became slightly obsessed with all of this. And so I want to talk about like which artists really, really perform on these. Really perform. What makes a song, how they work. We could do a little bit of the history thereof, by the way, because I would like to talk. We're going to go right back to ancient times, okay?
Oh wow, because I was going to go back to Barry White.
Yeah, well, that's the later. Okay, Aeschines, a Greek orator, he made
How are you making sex playlists unbelievable? It was immediately a classicist take on sex playlists.
Oh my God, I'm going to strip every piece of magic out of this for you later.
And by the way, you wouldn't even allow me to call them sex tapes, which I think is what they used to be, sex cassettes. It's now
okay, they used to be sex cassettes, but if you say sex tapes, people think it's a different thing now, okay? So you can't say sex tapes. It's a sex playlist, right? Now, Aeschines made a speech against an enemy in which he accused the enemy of having given into the most shameful vices. He invites women and flute players. Now, Plutarch said the Roman tyrant Sylla, he picks up this kind of partying style on military campaigns. He has big erotic parties. Again, musicians, a lot of flautists. Are flautists the first major sex playlist artist? I'm going to leave that one for our listeners to decide at the end.
Was it not just a euphemism?
No, I don't think it was. It wasn't actually. I think that some of them were multitaskers, yes, certainly, and perhaps particularly skilled.
But oboe players, that's a euphemism.
I don't think they had any oboes. Listen, we can't get too stuck in history. So we're moving through Al Green, Marvin Gaye.
They were famous obosexuals, weren't they, in the classical world?
Let's just move on to the modern era, okay? So we've got Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Barry White, I'm sure you would like to talk about.
No, you carry on. I'm a student studying at the feet of the master.
Barry White, okay, so he becomes a soundtrack to a lot of people's love. It's romantic soul. He's got that deep baritone. He called it sort of sex and symphony, but it was quite anticipatory of disco because there are beats there. We're going to get onto quite a lot of technical music stuff.
Oh my God. This really is a deep dive.
Oh no, listen, I tried to talk to the people at Spotify about this. They did not want to discuss this.
That's so weird that they wouldn't return that call.
No, they returned it, but they didn't want to get into it.
Did they at any point say, you have to stop ringing us?
They said, They are performing a valuable public service, in my view. I don't think they should be ashamed to talk about this. But if people won't answer my many, many questions, I will go another way about it. And I spoke to a lot of people in the music industry. I read a couple of medical papers.
Okay. Wow.
And I looked at what Spotify's publicly available data. Right. Everything changes. Everything has now changed. But the last time we knew about this, particularly from their data, back in 2015, it was the XX's intro. That was massive on sex playlists. Chet Faker. Back then, Spotify said that there were 2.5 million playlists, which were basically sex playlists.
Yeah.
But it was a different aesthetic. It was a kind of indie electronic minimalism.
Yeah, quite kind of slow, loose sort of thing. Yeah.
It's now much more dark R&B. And there was a 2025 analysis of over 1,700 Spotify playlists, which all said things like sex or bedroom or romance or shagging in the title. And oh my God, there is a massive artist hierarchy on this. Yes. I will professionally not tell you who is the far and away the market leader till we get on.
Even though I sort of know who the market leader is.
Oh, you know who it is. Yeah. Okay. But so there's lots of artists that just feature again and again and again. And sometimes they have like one big track, but a lot of them just have lots and lots of different tracks in these things. So you've got things like 2 Feet, that they're on it a lot.
I call them 24 inches.
Okay, Chase Atlantic. So there's lots of songs, but Swim is massive. Doja Cat, again, lots of songs, but Streets is massive. Arctic Monkeys, I Want to Be Yours. Bryson Tiller, Don't. Like Montel Fish, Hotel, Drake, Teenage Fever, all of these.
Montel Fish.
Yeah, Montel Fish. Labyrinth, Mount Everest. Okay, but look, there's lots of like Chris Brown, Under the Influence, Chris Brown, that is huge. Rihanna, I don't like to mention them in the same paragraph, but there you go. So they're big. And still people like Massive Attack and Portishead kind of do well. But way out in front, like way, with into the thousands of appearances is The Weeknd.
The Weeknd.
The Weeknd, oh my God. Yeah. He is miles and miles ahead of absolutely everybody else.
He's the default artist, right?
Yeah.
I thought that the thread that ran through this just went Barry White, Prince, The Weeknd. Now I recognise it's Eastgony's Barry White, Prince, The Weeknd. But
Eastgony's is just telling you about stuff. Yeah, they are the big four, right? So one of the girls is by far the biggest, but also often High for This, Earned It, What You Need. Anyway, you could go on because he just cannot, the Weeknd gets so much of this, okay? So I find this all interesting. But I was trying to understand what made those songs particularly work. So I did speak to a couple of actual technical musical experts. Okay. This is the science bit.
This is the science bit.
I am removing every piece of joy from this. Piece by piece, okay?
I like the whole of Britain all at the same time going, do you know what? I might never have sex again.
Sorry. Okay. Is there a magical sex BPM? Okay. The answer to that is not really.
Sorry. By the way, is there a magical sex BPM? Can that be the title of the episode?
Yeah.
BPM, I should point out, is beats per minute.
Yes. Yeah. Now, some commercial analyses will say that between 90 and 130 BPM is a good spot for a sex playlist track.
Like blood pressure.
Yeah. But it actually what people think is it should feel slower than its raw BPM, okay? So than the raw BPM measurement suggests it should feel slower. Now, that is achieved in various ways. Okay, steady pulse.
Tell us some of those ways, Marina.
A steady pulse, that does very well. A high rhythmic consistency. I want you to listen to this. Now, a halftime...
I'll tell you what, now people are perking up.
A halftime groove. This is when the backbeat shifts, right? So it feels...
Not like halftime, like you stop for like half an orange. Like halftime as in, okay.
No. You're not stopping at all, right? You're not stopping at all. We'll get on to how they make the arcs of them as well later. Okay. You're not stopping at all at halftime. You've got... so this is when the backbeat shifts. So it feels slower than it is, but actually the tempo is the same. So it's structurally, that makes it quite hypnotic.
Yeah.
And it has...
That's also something you say, this is feeling slower than it is, I promise you. I absolutely promise you that it's actually faster than you think.
I accept that you're going to do this all the way through, and I understand that I've forced this item on us, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Now, Repetition. You don't want to particularly have to pay attention to this music. Okay, so repetitive arrangements are good. Samey is good. You do not want any musical surprises to take you out of your moment.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, would be, I mean, that's kind of because you're constantly being distracted.
Yeah, it's like 6 different songs in one. No, thank you. Yeah.
Also, bit long.
Well, we'll get to. I think a lot of these people just don't even get listened to. People are asleep by a lot of these artists, but you know, you have to be honest about The Weeknd and give him his flowers. Okay, so the R&B is obviously the standout genre. Yeah. So it, as I say, the rhythmic density, so it needs to feel like slower BPM. Bass is key. Bass needs to be heavy. Okay. The vocal, it's much better if it's like whispery and close to the mic. So. But weirdly, people don't choose non-vocal things. They don't do anything hardly on these lists. They overwhelmingly choose vocals. They want vocals. And they like it close mic, breathy. There's ASMR. A perceived, ASMR, there's a perceived intimacy. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the lyrics are quite basic and route one. There's a lot of, the titles are, I mean, really, there's a lot of sweat, swim, sex with me, fetish, dirty, when we, body on mind. Okay, all of this, right?
Sex with me is really route one.
Yeah.
If you're having sex with somebody.
Yes, it is quite. But I think that in this department, there's not that much creativity. What I will say is people avoid shuffle, okay? They like to create an entire show arc with these things. So at the beginning, it might be, something mood enhancing, but, by, what do I want to call this? The back nine? I don't know. By the back nine, you just want The Weeknd.
Okay, I understand.
I think, if I can put it like that.
Shuffle is a terrible idea because you'll be halfway through. Suddenly there's an audiobook. Rebus was driving across the Forth Bridge. Also, by the way, make sure that you have Spotify Premium because otherwise you get an advert for Screwfix in the middle of it.
Wow. Yes, we love you guys at Spotify, but I would have liked you to have helped with me with this. Okay, so I read an interesting medical paper on sexual arousal and rhythmic synchronization.
Your week is so, I will point, can I just remind viewers that Marina is on holiday?
I wanted someone to answer my questions, but when they didn't, I had to find it out for myself. So some people did. The music experts were very helpful and the record labels were helpful. Okay. I read this interesting paper on it. They think that music had an ancestral role in courtship displays. Anyway, the thesis of this paper was that neuropeptide vasopressin, this is a social hormone, among other things, that is associated with attachment and responses to partners, again, among other things. That has receptors in the bits of the brain that is involved in music and dance performance. That bit is called the basal ganglia. Okay.
Sorry, the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia. That could be the show episode title. Its concentration rises when men are sexually aroused, and they found that rhythm synchronization seemed to have a significant effect on sexual arousal. They did conclude that more studies were needed, and I would, read all of those if they were.
I will say, I'll go out on a limb and say I don't think more studies are needed.
Okay,
I think probably we can get through the rest of human history without.
Okay. But there is also a Pavlovian element to it that people describe, which is why they use the same playlist again and again, because actually it gets them in the mood sooner and sooner each time because, the first chords of something by The Weeknd are like, okay, right, I know where I am now.
Yeah, then you're a salivating dog.
Yeah. And so...
To use the Pavlovian...
To use... Yeah, it's the ringing of the bell. So... Anyhow, so this is a massive, massive thing. There are huge numbers of these ones. Yeah. People don't necessarily, because people like to make their own ones. I wanted to talk a little bit about celebrities and any ones who've talked about it since this is an entertainment podcast as well.
As well as what? Sorry.
As well as something about the basal ganglia.
Okay. The rest is basal ganglia.
Yeah, they will have been pitched it. Now, celebrities... Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump.
Oh, no, come on.
No, I know.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning, but...
Yeah, literally their sex playlist is called Trigger Warning.
Ivanka has a lot of public playlists. Things like Walk to Work, Running, like Holiday Party 2015. And then this playlist emerged, which was just a 21-minute playlist, which was like John Legend, Adele, James Blunt, and Bruno Mars. And everyone was like, okay, let me have 21 minutes of pure speculation. This is their sex playlist. Okay.
James Blunt is that's a yeah, okay.
Okay. Future Celebrity Traitors star.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, people who have spoken about it. Charlie Puth says he prefers jazz or soul, and he's actually spoken explicitly and said these are the exact people on my sex playlist. They're like Roy Ayers, Miles Davis. That's what he's done.
Yeah, okay, that's more acceptable than who would have thought that he would have a better sex playlist than Ivana Trump?
Ivanka Trump. Ivana's in the golf course now, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the other people who've spoken about it, Kevin Jonas, he's got a podcast, of the Jonas Brothers. He says his playlist is just basically a lot of Michael Bublé because his wife likes it, okay, which is not a stupid idea.
No, I get it.
And on that podcast, Joe,
do you think it's a lot of Bublé's Christmas stuff?
It's not clear. He didn't specifically. I mean, hopefully at Christmas, yes. But I think you could make it seasonal.
But again, if you're on shuffle and you're halfway through and suddenly it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas comes on August
Richard,
the 4th.
People don't shuffle these things. So if you're on shuffle, you're an amateur, right? So Joe Jonas said, but on this podcast, Joe Jonas now said to Kevin Jonas, but hang on, your wife told me that I'm her favourite band. And he was like, yeah, you're not on it for obvious reasons. His brother's band is not on it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I can see
that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Now, what I think is rather nice to conclude what I'm talking about is that Michael Bublé reciprocated, and he said, "Oh yeah, I mean, mine is just full Jonas Brothers all the way," because he liked that he had got a shout out in the old Jonas sex playlist.
In the old Jonas, and it's called the old Jonas sex playlist.
Yeah, I think that's the podcast name. So there concludes my tour through this. I mean, it's a genre. It's a genre. The Weeknd is by far and away the market leader by a million miles.
And the economics of it are huge, right? I mean, there's a huge amount of money spent. We've talked before about playlists and automatic placement on playlists and how when you're on one playlist, suddenly you get put on 5 or 6 others. And as you say, there's a lot of stuff on these playlists that is going on after people have fallen asleep. Yeah. So you're literally...
a stream's a stream.
Yeah, title of my sex playlist. So you're literally making money while people are asleep. There's lots of niche ones as well, because we all get that the Weeknd and all that kind of stuff is the cliche, but there's like heavy metal sex playlists.
Yeah,
listen, I get it. It's whatever you want. Which, by the way, includes Glory Hole by Steel Panther and Sulfur Injection by Apostasy.
I would never shame anyone for any of that, I don't think.
Oh, I'm not shaming anyone for anything. I'm just reading out some funny song titles. Right. There's classical. You talked about people wanting lyrics, and they're very sort of close to the mic stuff. There are loads of classical sex playlists as well. That's sort of nice that those people exist in the world, isn't it? The most popular one, which has got over 250,000 listeners, starts with you won't be surprised. No one listening will be surprised with this. Starts with Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto in D major.
Sure, of course.
Absolute textbook stuff. There's also one, by the way, called Leck Mick in Arsch by Mozart, which I have not wanted to translate, but it's on there anyway. Because in the old days, before sex playlists, because can we just take it into a slightly cuter route for a moment? Mixtapes used to be such a huge thing. I don't even like mixtapes in the kind of dance scene, but that thing of making a mixtape for somebody on a C90 cassette, and of course that's not a thing that exists anymore. But I'm assuming that kids are making playlists for each other these days, making curated playlists and sending them to hopeful paramours. Right?
I really hope so. I need to hear reports back of this, but I'm sure they will. Yes.
Every mixtape I made as a teenager might as well have been called "I Think You're More Likely to Go Out With Me If You Really Understood How Much I Like the House Martins." That was essentially that. I've also just to put a tin lid on the thing, I've made the worst possible sex playlist.
Yes.
If you want to hear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to hear it.
And it doesn't include Napalm Death's 1 second long "You Suffer." So this is the worst possible, or maybe most ironic sex plays you can ever have. Mr. Soft by Steve Harley. Are You In by Incubus. Oops, Little Mix. Over Too Soon, Small Faces. Is That It by Hank Sanders. Sorry About That, Alkaline Trio. What Was That, Lord? Sorry Again, Velocity Girl. You're Better Than That by Plug, I Know, by Fiona Apple. Let Me Try Again by Frank Sinatra. I've Got Work in the Morning by Pizza Tramp. I Understand by Freddie and the Dreamers. And we end with the Brian Burkhart Band, I'll Call You a Cab.
Oh, I want someone to make that and put it on Spotify, but not put your name in the title.
No. Please, somebody, just one of our listeners, would you please make love to that playlist? Thank you.
And report back to us how it went. Thank you.
That's a parasocial relationship, isn't it? In the world though, where audio is such a big deal, do you think people are making love to audiobooks? It's
really interesting because someone just sent me a thing saying that the Heated Rivalry guys, I hate to talk about them, the Heated Rivalry guys have done something on an app that I've yet to download, but I think is quite specialist. I think they played two princes for neighboring kingdoms. Someone told me that the sound effects were like off the chain. So I don't know whether people, I don't know. I haven't listened to it, and I need to listen to Hudson Williams and Connor's story on this story of two princes who live next door to each other.
Is that what it's called? Two princes who live next door to each other?
No, it's not. I can't remember what it's called. I think the app is called Quinn that I have to get, but I haven't actually downloaded it. As I say, I've got very bad Wi-Fi.
I would bet pretty much any money that I have that somebody out there, or a couple out there, will have made love while listening to The Rest is Politics. Don't you think? With Alistair and Rory, we're talking about Andy Burnham's transport policy, which, by the way, is not detailed enough for me.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. Yeah.
Our DMs are open. Well, that was exhaustive. Marina, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
It's much appreciated. Shall we go to some adverts?
We can't, because Joey, our producer, has just given me a piece of paper with an absolutely incredible detail on it.
Okay.
Someone once emailed Goalhanger to say that they had sex during Rory and Alistair's interview with Jerry Adams.
No way.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That is
quite specialist.
That must have been a Good Friday.
I can't do. All of mine are too unacceptable. I can't do them.
Wow. I mean, that is. Do you think that they put it on especially, or it was just on as the evening progressed?
I don't think of Jerry Adams as an Insta aphrodisiac, so it's so difficult. Wow. Neither is acceptable. You put it on, or it gets you in the mood. I'm so sorry. I said we wouldn't rush to any judgment, but I just want to say I'm judging.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the rest is history on Cicero. I get. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But Rory and Alistair talking to Jerry Adams.
Wow. I think we have to go to a break now. I need to have a moment.
We have a lot to think about over these adverts.
A lot.
This episode is brought to you by Lloyds Rewards. Now, a big mistake that people make is leaving the cinema as soon as the credits roll, because there might be a bonus scene right at the end.
They're absolutely one of my favourite things in the world. Yeah, you never know.
There used to be in Marvel ones, there used to be a mid-credit scene, and then there'd be an end-credit scene.
I remember the first one I really remember, two. I remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he tells you to go home at the end, but also Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds, where they would do bloopers. It just feels like a secret little glimpse into a different world.
And it doesn't quite have to be over.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a lovely little added bonus. You've done everything. You've made your show, right? You've given everyone everything. It's just a lovely little extra.
Which is also the idea behind Lloyds Rewards. Extra value appearing inside something you were already doing anyway, your daily banking. From shopping to streaming, you can bank on Lloyds to help your money go further.
It's rewards like this that make 14 million people bank on Lloyds. Search Lloyds Rewards in your app. Eligibility criteria, terms and conditions apply. Retailer offers and cashback amounts may vary. UK residents 18+.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, we are going to talk about Ariana Grande, which is such a difficult conversation. She's been very, very thin for a long time, and she's just announced that she's sort of withdrawing from public life for an unspecified amount of time because the attention this gets, although she doesn't explicitly refer to it, but that's what it is overwhelming. And as I say, it's a difficult conversation, but I think it is one you have to have.
To discuss, exactly.
I think talking about women's bodies in general is so difficult. It's difficult to say whether there is a right answer or not, and we'll kind of get through it. But a background, Ariana Grande, she came to fame as a child star on Nickelodeon, and then she became a pop star. Obviously, the Manchester bombing happened at an Ariana Grande concert. I mean, just truly beyond horrific. And she returned to acting, and she has Fokker-in-Law coming up, but most particularly she returned in Wicked, and it was during the promotional tour for both sort of halves of that it was clear that she was very, very thin. But she came back as a pop star this summer, and that was slightly unexpected. She did a 42-date tour, the Eternal Sunshine Tour, supporting that last album. But the new album, Petal, is out. And the video for that title track in particular does seem almost deliberately shot to highlight her frailty and her thinness. And, it's gone completely viral. Obviously, the way that some people talk about it is so repulsive. It really reminds me of the noughties and the way that incredibly thin women then, who obviously all had major eating disorders, were spoken about without any form of humanity, just a sort of like a sort of freak show. And anyway, it's interesting. The platforms have tried to pull back on this stuff because we know that sort of pro-anorexia content, any of this sort of stuff, they have tried to pull back.
TikTok and places have tried to put guardrails in place, haven't they? I mean, the trouble is with all of those platforms, you will, if this is something that you are desperately seeking out, you will find a way around that. But they're trying, at least. They're recognizing that it's an issue that teens especially are trying to look at content about anorexia, eating disorders and things like that, and are actively seeking it out.
But I felt that they couldn't even beat it in this case. That it's like this is such a tidal wave that it has beaten the algorithm. You can't move on all the different platforms for seeing people talking about it. And anyway, so one of her representatives has said that she will be taking a step back from visibility after her tour because of the public-facing work and appearances have led to endless ongoing public scrutiny. And this is what this is about. It's about nothing else. So even things that she was going to do, like a really big show they were doing with Jonathan Bailey, who's her Wicked co-star.
Yeah. Sunday in the Park with George, right? She was going to do, which would have been incredible.
Unbelievable. She's not doing that. And I absolutely think that the discourse is completely relentless on it, and a massive percentage of it is completely without humanity. But
as you say, there's an interesting thing in the middle of this, which is, we are strongly anti the policing of women's bodies and appearances and things like that, and that's an important part of our culture. But equally, if we do think there's something dangerous in the middle of our culture, which actually, adds to the issues of being a teen of either gender, then do you speak up? And so I think a lot of people are slightly on the horns of a dilemma as to whether this is something they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And certainly whether they want to use her as a poster girl for it, because that feels unfortunate as well. But it's impossible to look at some of the ways that she is portrayed without thinking about this issue, without thinking about, without speaking about it. And certainly anyone with teenage children, you're like, well, I mean, this feels like an opportunity to have a conversation, but you don't want to put it all on Ariana Grande.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and we live in a world where people have very impressionable children and teenagers who follow and idolize these people. And a lot of people have disclosed eating disorders in the past. Everyone, Taylor Swift, Victoria Beckham, Kesha, all these different people. And I've said this quote so many times before in this podcast, but no snowflake considers itself part of the avalanche. And everyone saying a comment doesn't really, you can't imagine how difficult it must be to be her at the middle of it all. In 2023, Ariana Grande said we should be gentler and less comfortable commenting on people's bodies. However, I have to say I am of the view that some comment is, as you sort of hint, morally required sometimes, and it's incredibly complex. I had an eating disorder myself in my early 20s. It's they really thrive on secrecy. I do think that the sort of body positivity is quite a simplistic creed, and it's not one of those things everyone could. There was a point, in a few years ago when people said, "Oh, it's very, very simple. We just celebrate everybody," and I'm afraid that that's too simplistic, really. And health and example, whether asked to be an example or not does matter. You don't get it, anorexia, from women being thin and models being thin, or all the things that in the past of people have said, but it's born of lots and lots of complex things. But it's particularly a desire to control an overwhelming world. They do make it worse. These images like this and all of this. So I think you do have to talk about it, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
So obviously, some of the ways that some people talk about it, where it's just some sort of joke and you're literally joking about someone who may or may not be very ill, that's completely unhelpful. I do think, obviously, everyone has to leave her alone now.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should leave the issues raised alone. And it's very, very hard for people to get help in both here and in the US. And I think you have to talk about these things. And I find it very difficult. It's hard. You know, that's the trouble of being a public figure. You are a public figure to some degree. And I think it's too simplistic to say we can't discuss it at all because...
Yeah, and if you are in a situation as a teen or even younger or older where you are looking for some sort of control and your life has spiraled, and you can see the examples in culture of very, very thin women, that is an avenue you think, oh, maybe that's a way. Maybe that feels like something I can control. And so, as you say, it's not the fault of a thin woman that other people become anorexic, but having that example out there at all gives you an avenue. It gives you a, you know, I mean, I've spoken a lot about my disordered eating, and that started when I was very young, 9 or 10. And it comes from, well, what can you control when you're 9 or 10 or 12 or 13? Not an awful lot is the truth. But one thing you can control usually is food. That's the one thing that, you know, whether it's eating more of it or eating less of it, it's a very, very simple thing to control when you're a kid, when you can't control almost anything else. And so I do think it's important we talk about it. As you say, Ariana Grande, it's fascinating because, of course, she denies that she has an issue, but when you're talking about all those women who have, you know, later admitted that they had issues, they all denied it at the time, because you do deny it at the time. That's not her, nothing, she's not doing anything wrong by denying it. Of course you deny it because you don't want to think about it, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to admit it, you feel shame about it. So she doesn't want to admit it, and that's fine. Maybe in 10 years' time, she'll say, actually, at the time there was an issue. But if we can elevate the debate slightly and just sort of say, we understand in our culture there are people who are thinner than they might be in the manosphere. There are, you know, we talked about, you know, looks maxing and all that kind of stuff. There are versions of bodies out there which teenagers of any gender can look at, which probably are not the healthiest versions of bodies that they could have. And given that food is something that kids can control in some way, it's worth having a conversation about it. And it's certainly worth kids being able to talk about it as well.
Yeah, I don't think you can ignore it, but you can just choose how you do it. But I think she must be left alone now because that's what she's asked for.
Well, listen, we all wish her well, and we, you know, hopefully there are conversations that can be had. Hopefully some good can come of all of that stuff, and we can all start talking about those things a little bit more. Shall we move on to something? Shall we move on to an exemplar of manhood who's been around for a very, very long time, and that is James Bond?
Very good. Yes, James Bond. Now, James Kanagasorian, who's the brilliant pollster who I did our Vibe Shift series with.
Yes, by the way, available to members still, that Vibe Shift series, and it was absolutely sensational.
Now, James's company, Focal Data, has done research on what the public want from the next James Bond film, which I think is very, very interesting.
And from the next James Bond himself as well.
Yes.
The headlines of it are, well, should we talk about who the British public want to be James Bond first? Because he's done a lot of research into that. And I think it's interesting. The number one name, we'll do a top three. Okay. These are the three people who the British people would most like to be James Bond. We've seen all the names that are in the press. We've seen that the names at the top of the betting. But if you just ask the public in the UK and the US, funnily enough, in third place, James Norton.
Yep.
It's been mentioned a lot. I absolutely get that. In second place, Henry Cavill.
Mentioned a lot.
21% of people would like Henry Cavill to be James Bond. The top choice across Britain and America to be the next James Bond, Tom Hardy. I mean, I get it. I absolutely get it. I don't think it'll be him, but you can see why people would want Tom Hardy to be James Bond.
People are wrong. People are wrong about a lot of things.
Yes, but if you look back at every single James Bond that has ever been appointed, not a single one of them would have been chosen by the public, apart from maybe one. Connery definitely wouldn't have been chosen by the public because he was unknown. Roger Moore wouldn't have been chosen by the public. Timothy Dalton wouldn't have been chosen by the public. George Lazenby, Daniel Craig definitely wouldn't have been chosen by the public. They were furious about it at the time. The one person I think the public might have said, this is our guy, is Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
I think he was the right guy at the right time, and everyone would. But the public, usually, you have to rely on the film producers to choose someone the public doesn't know they want, right?
Yes, but that was we've talked about it a lot before, but that was Barbara Broccoli's call, completely the Daniel Craig call. And it's really ballsy because it's like, everyone was like, what on earth are you talking about? The second they see Casino Royale, they're like, oh yeah, no, you're right. That is the right call.
And also he's a great actor, and that is important if you want to make great films.
Okay, right. James Kanagasorium's research, they've divided the fans of this which I like about this. They've divided basically the fans of this franchise into tribes, and the tribes are traditionalists, and like they care about, all preserving his traditional values, his classic behaviors, no political correctness, etc. All his vices are there, his seduction style is intact, all of that. They're the biggest segment in the UK. And there are substantial ones. We're just sort of looking at the UK and the US, really. And there are substantial ones in the US, and they're kind of heavily populated by socially conservative, older right-wing voters who's like, they really like the franchise when they feel kind of old school. Yeah. Next tribe, patriots. They really care about his British identity, the sense of duty, blah, blah, national affiliation. They're more prevalent in the UK, obviously, than they would be in the US. And again, they disproportionately include older, more nationally rooted, right of centre voters. And they wanted to keep Bond very much the same. This is the next tribe. This is interesting. I'm a little bit of this, but a little bit of the next one after. Classicists. Classicists, they want to have the familiar formula. So they want the structure, they want the leading man looks, they don't have to be heavily updated. They're kind of like a really solid middle ground in both the US and the UK market. They don't want any culture wars in this stuff.
Yeah, but they want the classic stuff, but they want you to move it on a little bit to reflect the world as it is. They want Christopher Nolan's Odyssey rather than Homer's Odyssey.
Agreed. Then you've got showmen, or show people, perhaps. Now showmen, they care most about the sort of spectacle, the escapist glamour, big action sequences, lots of locations, gadgets, all the stuff, the jokes. And they want the films to be very fun, visually impressive. They're more common in the US than the UK, funnily enough.
But they don't care about the absolute traditional bits of Bond, as the tuxedo and the suaveness, and they just want a big Mission Impossible style spectacle. Yeah,
and they tend to skew younger. And by the way, young people are the people who go to the cinema most. A lot of these old people who have a number of views, are you going to see it in the cinema? No, I probably won't. No. It's a little bit like, it's just like,
however, this is how I want you to make it.
This is exactly how I want you to make it. I'm never going to see it. I'll fall asleep in half of it over Christmas in about 7 years' time. Okay, so no. The next one is globalists. Now, they care about all of the kind of locations. They like it to be more modern, cosmopolitan. There's more of them in the US than the UK, and they're younger, they're outward looking, they're whatever.
They're absolutely the sort of people who would have sex while Rory and Alistair talk to Jerry Adams.
They're not those people. Okay, I don't think.
Are they not? Who are those people? I would love to know who those people would choose as the next James Bond.
Listen, if that was you, don't be intimidated. Write in and just give us a tiny bit more detail, because there's just not enough quite I know about this yet. And as you know, I like to ask a lot of questions. Okay, so let's get back to these people. In the UK, older viewers, C2 voters, they're kind of clustered in traditionalists and patriots, while classicists are quite popular. Now, the showman and the globalist, those last two categories that don't really care about, just kind of want it to be big and exciting and fun and hot and whatever. They're much more female, younger looking, 18 to 34s, etc.
As you say, people who will actually go to the cinema.
Yeah, but actually you want to get all of those people. We've talked before about like 4-quadrant movies. Bond isn't a 4-quadrant movie really, but it's as many quadrants as you always want, as many quadrants as you can. And so each of those audiences need different marketing techniques to bring them in. And in your casting, your concept, your tone, all of that, you need to reach them all in a way, if possible. It's almost like a manifesto. It's so weird, this franchise. It's almost like trying to get, putting out an offer to the electorate for government.
Mm. But it is. I do think it's worth noting that this data is amazing, but it's worth noting if you are the Bond people, and if you are Amazon, they have all of this data as well. They want to make a great film, but they do also want to market to all of these people. So if you look at who they will eventually choose, if you look at the movie they make, if you look at the script, all these things, they would have had all of this information all the way through. So it's all very well us saying, oh God, it's so easy to make a Bond, do X, Y, or Z. They have got all of this stuff. They know all of these things. They want to make a movie that, as he says, appeals to everybody. They know exactly all these numbers. And often, certainly in a franchise, data can be incredibly important. It's never as important as the creativity of the director and the writer and the actor. That is always paramount, I think, in pretty much any franchise. But all of this will inform their decisions, which is why it's interesting that we have this data as well now.
Yeah, it's really, but it's a little bit like something like the monarchy, where you have to make sure that it can be handed on to the next generation. It's such a weird franchise, as I always say. In the UK, this is really something that's in our bones. We have to get Bond right, or we're getting something about ourselves wrong.
Stop getting Bond wrong.
Yeah, but or we're getting something quite sort of elemental about ourselves wrong. And so there's certain things that are like this kind of national bellwethers, and it's like, is M&S underwear good at any one given time? Have Man United got a strong back four? Are our institutions failing? This is like one of those things. It's sort of totemic in a weird way.
Well, it was fascinating recently that they do polling on everything, that all the world's security services voted on who the best security service in the world was, and MI6 came top by like a mile, like an absolute mile in terms of the ones that was admired most by the rest of the world. And that is, of course, not chiefly because of Bond, but a part of that is because the brand is so incredible, and that's Bond, and that's Britain, and there is something about Bond that is absolutely deep within our national psyche. But we have to recognise that, for example, in America, they couldn't care less about any of that stuff.
No, but we have to now talk about, it's very interesting. Okay, across every one of those tribes that I have mentioned, Tom Hardy and Henry Cavill come out on top. There's something about those. They believe that they kind of have this core identity of Bond, and that they embody it.
That's so with the traditionalists, with the classicists, with everyone, they all sort of agree.
They're miles out in front on this one. I think they're totally wrong. They're too old.
By the way, there's one interesting wrinkle in that. So Tom Hardy is ahead of Henry Cavill. If you just look at Americans, if it's just Americans, then Henry Cavill is actually the first choice to play Bond.
America, you're wrong about this, and some other stuff as well. But Henry Cavill's 43. I think he's too old for it. But the next ones down, it's interesting, are like James Norton, Richard Madden.
Yeah.
Again, they're not going to go for Richard Madden. After that, there's no younger ones doing anything more than 2%. So you've got Callum Turner, Aaron Taylor-Johnson. You've got quite negative ones like Jacob Elordi. Now
Well, I was going to say, so this is like the popularity thing, which is you take the amount of people who like them and you minus the amount of people who don't like them. That's why it's possible to get a minus score. So Tom Hardy's score of 28 is the amount of people who like him minus the amount of people who don't like him equals 28. So there's a person on 0 who I've been told is going to be the next James Bond, by the way.
I know. I'm going to let you get to him.
Okay.
Jacob Elordi, who's one of the people, he's very negative. He's 29
years old.
Yeah, years old. Yes, and Callum Turner is 36. I think that's Anyway, you do want Bond to be a little bit older, but they could do something different. It's whether or not they take that big punt. But anyway, you tell us about your latest.
Yeah. So as I say, the scores are the amount of people who think you're great minus the amount of people who think you are not great. We absolutely have to take into account that the public would have been wrong on every single Bond ever appointed, apart from maybe Pierce Brosnan, and so it's down to the producers. Yes, but the name I heard, and we different people hear different things. So the name I heard is Jack Lowden.
Yeah,
River Cartwright in Slow Horses, and it was Kenny Noy in Gold, and is such a brilliant actor. Can be funny, can definitely do action. I mean, I think he'd be sensational. It is definitively not he's definitely got it thing. It's just someone he is definitely being strongly considered. I think he'd be amazing.
He's 36. That's a good age.
Yeah.
You have to have the longevity. They've got to do at least 2 movies, and he's a good age for it. The other, some of the others you mentioned are too old.
Yeah, I think you have it mid-30s, and funnily enough, the polling by Focal Data says how old should Bond be, and it's all. I think the average age that Bond should be is 37, right. But the average age for a Bond girl is 33. They think that he should be 37, and his girlfriend should be about 4 years younger. That's what the public think. But yeah, I think Jack Lowden would be an incredible Bond. Don't you think?
He'd be great. Yeah, for sure.
He's got real Daniel Craig energy.
Yes, but definitely can do the jokes. The jokes are essential. They're not taking it too seriously as well. It's Daniel Craig took it slightly seriously by the end.
But you can see he's got a slight. Yeah, there's always a slight twinkle in Daniel Craig's eye. If we accept that humour is an important part of Bond, I mean, which of these actors can really, really do comedy? Which of them have done comedy? It's quite hard going down that list to find proper, actors with comic chops.
Yeah, Callum Turner's in a rom-com at the moment, but it hasn't done very well.
Yes, which I think is interesting. It opened last week to not much, which won't do him any favours in this race, I don't think.
No, but then it's not. I don't think it's going to be Tom Hardy. I don't think those stories out of Mobland were particularly helpful either, because you just need everyone to be very easy to deal with. I'm not saying he isn't. It seems like so many egos on that show. I've got my own theories as to what the real problem is, and I don't think it's Tom Hardy necessarily. But none of that's helpful, because it's such a sort of huge thing, and you really need everyone to be lowest friction possible.
It's interesting actually that they also do. They've done the data on who the Britain and America's favourite ever Bond was, and it absolutely splits exactly as you think, which is older viewers, it's Sean Connery. Younger viewers, it's Daniel Craig, and there's somewhere in the middle they sort of merge into the two. But those two are absolutely streets ahead of everyone else.
But there are a lot of people who answered George Lazenby.
Yes, weirdly,
I can't. As I said, people are very wrong about things.
Well, the 35 to 44 cohort is the one that's absolutely split down the middle between 3 of them. So, as I say, Connery, when you're above 44, is everyone. If you're under 35, everyone is Daniel Craig. But 35 to 44 is absolutely split between just Connery just wins by 1 point from Daniel Craig, and then by 2 points from Pierce Brosnan. So it's that bit is very, very close. But everyone else, it's you're either Connery or you're Craig. It's like everyone's favourite Doctor Who is whoever was Doctor Who when you were growing up, or David Tennant. Okay,
but the humour should be part of it. Like, I have a lot of respect for the way that Roger Moore could say "hiss off" to a snake.
Yes,
I would not mind seeing a little bit more of that next time around.
Yeah, and Jack Lowden could do that, because Roger Moore's my favourite Bond because he was my first Bond. And that's just when I grew up seeing it. Funnily enough, they talk about what has to be in a Bond movie to all these respondents, and absolutely top of it, 70% of people said gadgets. So gadget is the single most important, because gadgets, exotic locations, dry humour. I think, if that's not the perfect recipe for a film, what is?
What is?
And Brits and Americans tend to agree on, and I just thought this was an interesting, just a final little thing. So dry humour, seduction, drinking, womanizing, all these things people want to be in the Bond movies. The place where Brits and Americans differ the most is gambling. So Brits are not that fussed about gambling being in a Bond movie. Americans really, really, really want it. America has gone absolutely insane for gambling in the last 5 years.
They have.
They've gone insane. I just saw that Polymarket and Kalshi, which are, the sort of not supposedly not betting sites.
Prediction markets, Richard.
Prediction markets. They're both worth over $20 billion now.
I know.
America has literally lost its mind for gambling. It has lost its mind. Anyway, and they want more of it in Bond. But thank you very much to James and to Focal Data for that. But I do think the interesting thing is that the Bond franchise people have all of this information already. They've got all of this data. Yeah. They know all of this stuff. And so when you think about the decisions they've got to make, my God, there's a lot on their shoulders. And I imagine that new names will emerge, and that there's many twists in this story yet. And if you want more Bond, we are currently recording our series, which is the definitive history of James Bond, starting right from Ian Fleming all the way through. We're having such a lot of fun doing it. It is for members, but the very first episode is out this week, and that is free for everybody. And it's about Ian Fleming. Oh God, I loved recording that episode so much. So it's about Ian Fleming and the very, very beginnings of Bond. So you can listen to that for free, and lots of details there about how to join our membership thing as well for ad-free listening and all that stuff. But yeah, it's the definitive history of James Bond is on its way for members, and this week only for non-members too. Any recommendations, Marina?
What I wanted to be able to recommend this week was Richard Osman's We Chase Shadows. But let me tell you what's happened to this book, which I bought with me. I bought 2 books with me. It was immediately taken from me by Kieran, who said, like, honestly, with about, by Customs. By the first 3 pages, Kieran's like, oh my God, his tone is amazing. He's just nailed it. Absolutely loved it. The second he finished it, my daughter has taken it. Not spoken to me for 24 hours, not in a bad mood. So I haven't yet, but I can tell you that it is going down an absolute storm with the people I'm with.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm reading my other book.
Which is?
Oh, you're going to love this.
Oh, God.
I am reading On War by Karl von Clausewitz, which is a seminal early 19th century, by the way, treatise on military strategy and history. I couldn't be loving it more. It's like a self-help book, but not rubbish. And I'm learning how to vanquish my enemies. 99.9% of listeners to this podcast, and even that's conservative, don't buy this book because you will be like, what on earth is she giving me? I literally couldn't love it more.
You might be the only person in the world taking those 2 books on holiday.
Yeah, I think so. I'm also planning to invade the territories to the east of Prussia in September, and I don't want to mess it up. So I would like to recommend On War by Karl von Clausewitz. Any recommendations, Richard?
Yes, I'm listening to, actually, though you can read it, the collection of David Sedaris pieces called The Land and Its People. I'd recommend buying it because he's so brilliant, but particularly the audiobook, because you get to hear him read it out live in front of an audience, so you get to hear the reaction, and he's so funny. It's so effortlessly funny. Of course, he's not effortlessly funny. It takes an enormous amount of effort. But there's a humour to it that is a bit like other people's, but it's not like anyone in particular. He has a very, very special voice.
He's amazing.
Some of his jokes are just, and I admire no one more in the world than someone who can really tell a proper joke that no one's ever told before. And he is amazingly good at that. So it's The Land and Its People by David Sedaris.
Right, I think that wraps us up for today. We will obviously be back tomorrow with the first one of our Bond series. It is really cool. It's such fun.
We're doing a few more Q&As as well, which we're looking for our listeners to send in questions. I'm going to be interviewing John Grisham. I love John Grisham so much. So if you have any questions for John Grisham, please send them in to the Wrestlers Entertainment at goalhanger.com. And also, we'll be interviewing the new hosts of Strictly, so Josh Widdicombe, Johannes Radibi, and Emma Willis. So if you've got any questions for them, then same address, wrestlersentertainment at goalhanger.com. So John Grisham, any questions about his writing methods, any questions about the movie adaptations, anything like that, any questions about being virtually the best-selling author of all time, I'm sure he'll answer all of those. And anything for Josh Widdicombe, Emma Willis, and Johannes Radibi, please.
And other than that, we'll be back on Thursday for our questions and answers.
See you on Thursday.